Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast.
Yo, and hello. Welcome into another episode of Sneakers and Cleats. It is episode 193, because that's what comes after 192. Welcome in, everybody. It's Monday, May 5th.
Hi, Zach.
Cinco de Mayo.
It is Cinco de Mayo.
Revenge of the 5th as well for all the Star Wars fans out there, if we're going to keep with the Star Wars puns.
It's gonna be me.
Yeah, that too is also happening. The NSYNC.
And,
Bob's laughing already.
Yesterday was May the 4th,
Right?
Yeah.
which is my wedding anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
And
And
Julie
May
and
the
I
4th be with you.
we were celebrating May the 4th way before that
Way
became
before
a
it
thing.
was cool. Well, guys, big day today. My goodness,
Yeah.
up a jam-packed show. Before we get into the rundown here a little bit, be sure to subscribe to the News 4 San Antonio and Fox San Antonio YouTube channels if you haven't done so already. I believe we are broadcasting live right now on that channel, and for everybody who wants to catch up later, you can download this episode of Sneakers and Cleats and get the audio experience on your favorite podcast app. Moving right into episode 193. Big day up at the Spurs practice facility at the Rock, ushering in a new era of Spurs basketball. And Don, quite a surprise of who showed up today. A big contingent of Spurs players, past and present, staffers and everything, as Mitch Johnson is introduced, but also Coach Pop making his first public appearance since November. We'll dive into that. Also, real quickly, we'll get a Cowboys rookie minicamp report from Chuck. He was up there this weekend checking out the new Cowboys players, and then also a big record-setting weekend at the track and field state championships in Austin. San Antonio athletes showing out in a big, big way. So let's get right to the Spurs, guys. I think the big surprise, Don, we'll start with you. You were in the room.
There was a lot of words that can be used to describe today.
Mm-hmm.
Historic, eventful, impactful, emotional, but unexpected is definitely one of them. I did not expect. I thought about this morning while I was getting dressed. I was like, okay, I wonder how this thing's going to go. Like, who's going to introduce Mitch? Will Pop sit on the dais? And I was like, no, he won't sit on the dais. He's not going to talk. He would never show up because he didn't want to make it about him. He'd want it to be all about Mitch. So I wasn't expecting to see him in the building at all. And when he walked out, it was stunning. I think to everyone there, he was impaired, but he was walking on his own. He was assisted by Tim and Manu getting up and to the podium and turning around and balancing and those kind of things. His speech was slower, not slurred. He had no facial paralysis, although it looked like his left arm was impaired. His sense of humor was 100% intact. And I just thought it was poignant that he would expose his vulnerability for the good of Mitch Johnson and how much he thinks of Mitch and for the organization and for Spurs fans, I think in part, that needed some closure and needed to see him. And so, he's got PR people. They know what's going to be said and they know what's going to be observed. But it was important enough for him to pass the torch and to endorse Mitch the way he did because he thinks so highly of Mitch. I just thought it was just remarkable the whole day.
Chuck, you had that reaction when you saw the video of him walking out, and just what a big moment that was for Coach Pop. What just your reaction upon seeing that
Yeah.
Coach Pop, first time in 6 months we've seen him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you can tell a lot by just observing what was going on. I mean, I did not know that his physical status was had affected him quite the way that it had, and obviously still is. But I think, yes, Zach, the thing that hit me the most was, when the news broke on Friday that Pop was not coming back, and it was just a cold press release. Pop's moving up in the Spurs chain. He's going to have a new title, and it's 6 or 7 paragraphs, and I just kept thinking, that's it? This guy's the greatest, arguably X's and O's guy of all time, 5 championships, winningest all coach. And that's what I kept thinking. It's like, this doesn't feel like the way it's supposed to be. And so the irony I found from today was, from a man who fought tooth and nail his entire public career to keep private private and keep public public, for him to probably go against every fiber of his being in his current physical state, to put himself out there physically, emotionally, verbally, all of those things. I mean, my respect for him was already pretty great. It grew immensely today because of he, in the ultimate moment of stepping aside for the man that didn't want to share publicly his persona with anybody, or, the private matters, he shared with everybody in the entire universe. This is where I'm at. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'll still be here, but I just can't imagine the mental gymnastics he went through to bring himself to this point today. And you could see it, on some of the video that you got, the observable things where, we hopefully none of us have been in that spot where you're reflecting at the same time while something is happening in real time. And, his head was slightly down, and you could just see everything coming full circle with the moment. And I don't know, there was a lot of takeaways, as Don said. I'm just, what a way to go out. I mean, I just very, very, very beautiful.
It was beautiful. And I was watching him, Chuck, when you were talking about that part. His face turned real red, and he was visibly crying hard while Mitch was talking about the commitment of the wife and the family to coaching. Mm-hmm. And Mitch was thanking his wife and then his kids for, you guys don't sign up for this. And whether he was thinking about his wife, Erin, who has passed, or the commitment that he put into the game that took away from his family, you could see that it was overwhelming to Pop, knowing what Mitch is sacrificing now to do the very best. And that's what Pop said when he kind of explained it. He said, paraphrasing, that he wanted to keep doing this, but it requires someone who could give it everything. And that's what that's why it was time to pass the torch.
And that's actually, I think, our first cut here. This was the first, kind of one of the first things that Pop said after being introduced by Peter J. Holt at the podium. He was kind of giving an update for the first time on just where things stood health-wise. Javi?
I can never express the gratitude that I have for so many people carrying my organization and sending me thoughts, prayers, that sort of thing. Since I had the stroke, things are getting better by the day, but it's not good enough for what we plan ahead. And so it's time to make this change.
You can kind of hear it there, that fire is still there. And he kind of mentioned that in his statement. The passion, the love is still there. It's just physically, he's not 100%.
And for him to admit that, I think there's a lot of people who knew it and knew this day was coming, but a decision had to be his. And as stubborn as he is, he thought, I'm going to get there. I'm improving. He's taking steps day in and day out. But for him to recognize at some point, I think it might have been that Ruth Chris incident a few weeks ago where it was like, okay, nope, it's not good enough, and I'm going to step aside for the good of the team.
Mm-hmm. And he spoke at length about just everybody in the organization, top to bottom. Everybody has a part in the Spurs family, whether, you're the halftime entertainment, working in the training room, cleaning windows, whatever it is. It speaks to the family culture that they have in that organization. And now there's a new chapter in this book, and it's Mitch Johnson. Don, you kind of touched on it. I think we both saw that when Mitch was thanking his family, the emotion that was coming out of Coach Pop, something that he knows very well, the sacrifices that are made. But here was Coach Pop talking about Mitch and why he is the right guy heading into this new era of Spurs basketball.
Capable of giving their very best because that's what this group deserves and demands. And we have that man here in San Antonio. Mitch has been in the G League for a few years, behind the bench a few years, on the bench a few years, and then took over this year and did a fantastic job. With circumstances that were very difficult. And we saw him in action, and he was brilliant. Players respect him. He'll hold them accountable. And I couldn't be more thrilled for him and his family and friends.
So lots of emotion today as the torch is now passed to Mitch Johnson. Spurs players past and present. Of course, big to see Manu and Tim flanking Pop. I mean, wow.
Pop mentioned it in his up there, but afterwards I was speaking with Spurs president R.C. Buford, and R.C. said, Don, Tim and Manu have been with Pop during his rehab sessions every single day. They have not missed one. They're up there every day, helping him up, putting him through drills, encouraging him, coaching him up, barking at him to do one more rep. And I just find that's just so Spurs. For Tim and for Manu, who are retired and have other things to do. I mean, when my mom was in rehab, I didn't go every day. I mean, every day. That's what a great commitment.
Almost, it seems like adopted sons for him. I mean, and I know it's not exactly the same situation, but it's a similar dynamic to Lee Corso and Kirk Herbstreit on the College Game Day. Just how they look after this man who has shepherded them through their careers, Hall of Fame careers. I mean, just very emotional stuff out there at the Rock.
Yeah, and the good news is he continues to progress, because for all of us who were shocked or surprised by his current condition, from what I've been told, it was worse. It was a lot worse, and he is improving. And let's just hope he continues to improve.
It was good to see too his sense of humor still there. I know he kind of had mentioned you just, hey, you know, you're always kind of less.
I'm all there emotional, about to cry, looking at this guy like I just need to give this guy a hug, and the first thing he does is takes a shot.
And then he also reveals that he's got a new title now. It's not president of basketball operations. It's El Jefe. You know, he wants to be
Gangster Pop is still still alive and
still
well.
good to see that, you know, that his candor, his sense of humor is still sharp as ever. So
and shout out DeJounte Murray for being there for Mitch today too.
Yeah,
you know, and for Pop
really
as well.
neat.
But
I knew they went way back. I didn't know it went back all the way till he was 9 years old.
Yeah,
Wow.
That was crazy. Yeah, so it was cool to see DeJounte there. Bob, do we have anything from the folks listening in so far? Or?
No thoughts yet. Our friend Robert said hello. He's here every week.
What's up, Robert?
I don't know where Tom Guerrero's at.
Tom's been
Maybe
has
it's
Tom
payday.
been checking
Tom
in?
is working.
That could be it. So, so yeah, just a lot to unpack from this introductory press conference today. I know the tributes and well wishes have been pouring in from all over the NBA ever since the announcement was made on Friday. I mean, you got everybody from the commissioner, Adam Silver, Steve Kerr, Ime Udoka, Draymond Green, just players all over, past and present, have been doing that. But moving now to, of course, this new chapter, we'll jump to Mitch Johnson here, Javi. Of course, he's now introduced the 19th head coach in franchise history. Of course, a lot of people, there's been a lot of reaction after that. Chuck, you kind of touched on it. There wasn't a lot of time in between being elevated and now Mitch Johnson's the next guy. This was Mitch today, that it's just like, hey, I may be a new head coach, but it's just like, hey, I've been in this organization a long time, and yeah, I'm going to do things my way, but the culture's the same. The bedrock is the bedrock, and that's not changing.
I think being able to be in front of these guys and partner with them and challenge them and lead them is going to be the biggest thing, because I feel like we have a hold on the direction that we're heading into, and we want to build upon something. This is not a restart. This is not a reboot. This is not it's a new chapter because it looks different, but the theme of the book isn't changing.
So, Don, after all the emotion of Pop handing over the reins to Mitch, just your takeaways of how did Mitch do his first introductory press conference as the guy?
He batted 1,000, but, it's what we expected. I mean, the guy's handled himself brilliantly. You can criticize coaching moves, but the way he handles the media, way he handles questions, he's very savvy at dancing around things that are delicate issues. But he took this challenge head on. He's very smart, like we said, Stanford educated. He's a basketball guy his whole life. His family's basketball. He's been around great coaches. And, when you think about the guys that the Spurs have discovered, whether it's James Borrego as an intern in the video room or Will Hardy, there's a list a mile long, Sam Presti. There's identifiable characteristics of these guys. And I was thinking about this. What makes a guy that comes in as in the G League assistant coach intern / guy get ahead of the 15 other guys that are in there, right? So why is Will Hardy a star and not the other guy? Why is Mitch Johnson, the new head coach, even above Brett Brown or Matt or these other guys that are there now? And it's the it factor, right? He's got it. And I asked him that question. And you know what he said? I said, what is it about you? And he said, I was a point guard, and I knew at a young age the value of making the people around me better. And he goes, and if you have that quality, whether it's in any business, that you want the people around you to also succeed, that's a valuable trait. And that's as a point guard, because you wanted to pass and, get Robin Lopez and those guys the rock. And I just found that, okay, that's why he's the guy, is because he says things like that. He thinks that way and very mature. And I think we discount him a little bit because of his looks. He doesn't look 38. He looks 28 or 14.
Yeah.
And so you don't realize how long he's been around the game, how mature he is, and how sharp he is. And everybody you talk to in the organization feels the same way.
Yeah, I mean, we've had 6 months to kind of get to know him. I mean, listening to his press conferences, you can find great value. He shares. He tells you what he expects of the players. He's already had that conversation with the players. And he's honest and forthright. And to me, he sounds like a head coach. And I mean, like, who wants to be the guy that replaces Gregg Popovich, right?
Big shoes to
and
fill.
who can? The answer is there is nobody to do that. So, he'll have grace from almost everybody, knowing that that's who he's replacing. And I don't know how he did it last year, kind of holding it all together. I mean, the team, even with as banged up as they were, got better, were more competitive. Even at the end, they were all laying it out there. And so some of that credit has to go to him. At some point, it's going to come down to wins and losses like it always does. But I think it's going to be fascinating to watch and see how he grows into this position. And, I think this goes back to what we were talking about last night, right? If you think for 2 seconds Gregg Popovich didn't have a say in what was going on as to who was going to be the next head coach, good enough for Pop, good enough for me.
Yeah. Well, and the players voiced their support even during the season of Mitch, but we really heard it at the end of the season when they were doing kind of their exit interviews after that final game. Tons of support for Mitch. I mean, from top to bottom. Keldon Johnson, the longest tenured Spur on this roster, said, hey, Mitch was my player development coach, and the respect level has not dropped off. When he has been elevated to this position as acting head coach, they listen to him a lot.
I'll tell you this. The first time I heard his name and heard of him being a possible replacement for Pop was when he was still sitting behind the bench. And Tim and Becky in that lockout or bubble COVID
year.
season
Yeah.
were on the front of the bench and everybody's talking, who would be the replacement if Pop didn't go? Becky or Tim, or would Manu do it, or would they get Brett Brown, or would they get Mike Brown, or whoever? I was hearing then they got a guy, a sharp guy. Mitch Johnson is Pop's guy. And the next, at the bubble, I think, Tim didn't go. Mitch went to the bubble and got promoted to the front of the bench, and he's been the guy ever since. I mean, Brett Brown's an older guy and a confidant, but Mitch is an X and O's guy that Pop relied on.
And Mitch made a point to, mention Brett Brown today. Just he called him an uncle, I think. Not by blood, but that it sounds like now that longtime assistant coach Brett Brown is going to be Mitch Johnson's right hand man, which is important to have, obviously. And as Mitch kind of finds his way a little bit in this new role.
Young Brett Brown becomes old Hank Egan.
Of course, Pop's fingerprints still going to be all over this organization for years and years to come, if not decades, I'm sure. Mitch was also asked a lot about just, hey, what lessons are you taking from this legendary head coach? How are you applying them to your style? This was Mitch's response.
I think to have confidence, to be myself, and to do it my way. There's principles and values that are here and have been laid upon decades ago. So the blueprint has been around for a while, but to be able to do it in my own skin, in my way, to be authentic for the players most of all, is probably the biggest thing that I leaned on.
So good lessons to learn. I mean, we've seen this in recent, with big name head coaches retiring. What comes to mind is like Nick Saban. Guys step away and let the new guy just kind of have their turn in the driver's seat. Mike Krzyzewski at Duke. How much do you think that happens with the Pop-Mitch dynamic? How much is it just kind of like, okay, you leave the nest and off you go?
I think it's a lot like Duke. I mean, Shire is a disciple, and there's a way that things are done at Duke. It's the brotherhood, and it's the initiation, and it's the orientation and of the Duke way, and they huddle on free throws, and they do all the little things and slap the floor on defense, and there's that stuff is always going to continue, whether it's Coach K or not. And Coach K, although he's not there, his office is still in that building, and you can bet John Shire runs the program the Krzyzewski way. As an individual, he's still different than Coach K in certain ways. This will be the same way. This will continue to be the Spurs way, and just Mitch will have his take on it.
Mm-hmm. Chuck, you kind of agree with that, it sounds like, or seems like?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, again, I'm curious to see how it all unfolds, but kudos to the Spurs. A little bit of a daring move in today's age. It's always easier to go get the hot new guy or the hot guy that was released from his prior contract and, whatever it is. So, kudos to them for growing up Mitch and now, as you said, kicking him out of the nest and see if he can fly.
Yeah. Well, a lot to unpack again from today. Be sure to check out these guys later tonight on News 4 and Fox Max Sports tonight. Just lots to delve into from the big introductory press conference today. Also, 1 week from tonight, the NBA Draft Lottery. So light the candles now. Spurs hold the picks 8 and 14 at the current moment. 1 in 4 shot of moving up into the top 4. Is that right, Don? I believe.
Yeah, it's 6% chance of getting the number 1 pick, a 23% chance of getting a top 4 pick.
All right, so light the candles
Spurs,
now.
Yeah, Spurs have them right where they want
23%. It was 21 to get them
so
dunking.
you're saying
Right.
there's a chance.
Moving right along quickly to a couple of other topics. Cowboys rookie minicamp this past weekend. Chuck, you made the trek up to Frisco. And just real quickly, your thoughts on just the 2-day orientation there and meeting the new guys.
Yeah, there was a big takeaway. Obviously, there was a lot of charisma from all the guys that they brought in. These guys are all former leaders in their old programs and very mature group, smaller group than we've seen in years past because of all the wheeling and dealing that the Cowboys did during the offseason. Not as many free agents were brought in after the draft. So in that regard, there weren't a lot of bodies on the field. In fact, they had to go get U of H's quarterback just for the weekend so that they would have a quarterback in camp. But I guess my greatest takeaway is that Brian Schottenheimer, although he was in the building, there's a new sheriff in town there too. I mean, things are different. And you can see it. It's measurable. You can feel it when you're in the room. I mean, small things like, he's wearing his hat backwards. Sure. There's loud music at practice. There's a ping pong table in the locker room. They reconfigured where they're going to put Dak and where they're going to put Micah as a way to, they put them closer together, as in literally right next to each other, to build more team unity, or at least the attempt to build more camaraderie between the offense and the defense, with the two biggest dogs in the room sitting right next to each other. Little nuanced things. Again, they're not reinventing the wheel here, but these are things that weren't there. And in a day and age where teams are looking for every advantage that they can get, the new juice, I think, is needed. I think it's welcomed. And as much as everybody loves and respects Mike McCarthy and everything that he did, there was a 5-year stretch where they were winning a lot of games, but they weren't winning a lot of playoff games. It's just best to try something new. And they believe that Brian Schottenheimer, because as gregarious as he is, gives them the best chance. I mean, little nuanced things. You see him walking down the hallway by himself, Coach Schottenheimer, and he saying hello to every single person that walks down the hallway, press, staffers or whatever, and then, coming out of the locker room, and there's a lunch area right outside the locker room, and he's talking to non-football staff members and having a conversation and getting to know people that maybe he doesn't know as well as he would like to, because he said it. I know a lot of these people. I know a lot of them pretty well, but I don't know them well enough in order for us all to grab a hold of the rope now and go forward with winning. So, he's really taken it upon himself, and like it or not, this is what's coming for all these guys. With players in the room, he doesn't want players sitting in the same seat every day at meetings. Next day, he wants them to switch it up, get to know the guy next to you a little better. And I don't know. There were a lot of big takeaways from the weekend. And again, this isn't reinventing the wheel stuff, but obviously there were things that weren't there before.
A lot of Bum Phillips in him.
Yeah, just literally building family right before your very eyes.
Yeah.
Family culture, yeah. And we'll see how that manifests when the whole team arrives here in a couple weeks for organized team activities, OTAs also known as, but the mandatory minicamp too coming up in June. We'll kind of see how that culture is accepted. And just, of course, the big test is when the Pats go on out at Oxnard here.
That's right.
In late July. So, all right, quickly moving on before we get out of here. Track and field championships up in Austin. San Antonio showed out. My goodness.
Speed City, USA.
Yeah. Tate Taylor, we'll get to him in a second, but we've got to start with the GOAT. Taylor Nunez out at Randolph, the most decorated high school athlete in track Texas history. Just your thoughts on the weekend that she had, the career that she had in high school.
To qualify for state in a single event is an achievement. You got to win regionals. She qualified for state in 4 events, all 4 years, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. She ran in 16 finals over the course of those 4 years and never lost in the 1, the 2, the long jump, the relay. And then you add in the team titles. It's just unfathomable. She never lost a race at state.
She never, and she won every every race she was ever in at state. I mean, it is hard to do the mental gymnastics through her whole career, and to think that nobody's ever done what she has done, boys or girls, in the over 100 years that they've been keeping track of this stuff in the state of Texas. So, if it's taken 100 years plus to have somebody like a Taylor Nunez, I mean, imagine what it's going to be like for somebody to break 20 career gold medals in the state of Texas. Don and I were talking about this last night is, she's got a teammate that's won a boatload, right? Bendette's won a boatload.
Yeah.
She's got 2 other teammates. There were multiple medalists at state too. And we hardly even talk about those athletes.
And she would be like the greatest.
Right.
Yeah.
She got 16 goals.
She won a bunch too.
She
Yeah.
won 800 in the mile 3 years in a row.
Bendette is, kind of, we talk about Batman and Robin in basketball terms, but
Yeah.
these two are Batman and Robin of the track.
Batman and Batman.
And then going to Texas A&M together too, which is kind of cool. But so you think, I mean, the reason why it's going to be so hard for somebody to equal Taylor Nunez or best her in the 20 medal department is the fact that you've got Sophia Bendet as a teammate all those years too. And
Yeah.
so you keep winning these team titles.
Yeah.
And then to be able to ham and egg with other athletes during the course of that time to help you win those 20 gold medals. I mean, it's just nothing short of an absolute miracle.
And the other thing, too, is she's in Class 3A, and sometimes that's discounted. But her long jump number, her 100 number, her 200 number are competitive, if not better than. In fact, it was the second longest long jump in all classifications. It was better than the 4A and the 5A, and it was almost as good. And she has jumped as far as the 6A. And then her 100 time as well was, I think, second only to the 6A winner. Yeah. So she's right there in all the classifications.
Record-setting weekend, and to get that 16th individual gold medal, it was a dramatic finish in that 4x400. They had to play catch-up a little bit, and Nunez, down, I think, 2 seconds or something like that?
She got the baton.
Caught up on the back stretch, and then it was neck and neck down that final 50 meters. But we caught up with Taylor after, and Sophia Bendet as well. Want to make sure that, Sophia, wow, a great distance runner in her own right. But it went to a rolling schedule because of the threat of rain. She ran the mile. There's usually a break. She didn't get it, and she comes right back out and kills it in the 4x400 as well. So Sophia, we mentioned she's a beast in her own right in this event. But here was Taylor Nunez, Sophia Bendet, and Taylor's mom after this incredible weekend.
It means a lot to me just being able to come out here and push. 4 events is not easy. Whether you're in 1A, 6A, 3A, it is not easy. And coming out here and executing and running, top times, it's very hard, but I did it. And to be able to say that I have 16 gold medals at state in Texas, I feel like that's definitely a privilege.
And this is such a bittersweet ending. We're all seniors here on this team, and the majority of our team is seniors, and this is our 4th state title now. So we knew what was at stake here, and I think everybody went out there and left their heart on the track.
I'm in awe. I'm actually in shock to come out here and execute the way she did. It's awesome. It's just awesome. It's a great feeling as a mom. I've been on this journey with Taylor since she was 5 years old. She couldn't do it without her teammates, and this was a really special group, and they did it.
They certainly did. Just props to the Randolph track program. They, in addition to all this individual success, 4 straight years of winning the team title as well. Of course, Nunez and Bendet doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but it takes a team as well to get that done. So just incredible for them. And then before we get out of here, Tate Taylor, we're going out and talking to him, the intrepid Jack Green, visiting with him today. Not just winning the 100 meter in 6A, a new national high school record.
Yeah.
Jaw-dropping stuff.
No high school runner in the world has ever run faster than San Antonio's own on Saturday, 9.92. No wind aided either.
And not even his best event. That's the best part of it. The national indoor record holder in the 200 as well. So, and I don't know if his 200 time, although he won that too, I don't know if that was a record.
And I was hearing today a little bit, somebody was saying it looked like he maybe eased up. Of course, this is secondhand, but, it's like, he's a beast in that event. So he's only a junior as well. So we're going to see him next year. Just imagine what another year of development and getting bigger, faster, stronger is going to do for that kid.
He's got Olympic potential, this kid.
So
his stride length in the 200. Yeah, he's long.
Another San Antonio athlete to keep an eye and an ear on as moving forward. Bob, anything else before we get out of here?
No, we're good.
Awesome. Well, a big day in San Antonio. More to come later on this week as we move into the month of May. Thanks for everybody tuning in. Again, you can download on your favorite podcast app. Be sure to like and subscribe to the News 4 San Antonio and Fox San Antonio YouTube channels as well. We're out of here. We'll try and do better next time, Knuckleheads. We'll see you then.